Hi kindergarten, we're going to have our math lesson today. Before we get started, I want to show you a few things that will make it easier for you to do this lesson. You're going to need some of the Play-Doh you made the other day when you saw Miss Upton's instructions last week, like a good sized lump. This is probably not quite enough. You need a little bit more than this. You need a small round lid or like a little plate. This one is pretty small. This one's a little bit bigger. Something small and round. And you need either a toothpick or a plastic knife because you're going to use it to cut the Play-Doh. If you have a special plastic Play-Doh tool, you could use that too. But I was just thinking of things that most people would have at their house. Okay? All right, so now that you've got all your supplies, I want to look at our fractions anchor charts from last week and talk about them so we can remember how to write a fraction. All right, let's look at this. So here is our fraction anchor chart for the halves. And halves are two equal pieces of one whole thing. And so this side shows halves. I especially want to remind you what half looks like when you write it as a number. It's either 1 over 2 or 1, and then there's a sideways slash mark next to 2. So it shows that 1 is half of 2. That's what half looks like when you write it as a number. Do you know what whole looks like when you write it as a number? You do already because I didn't tell you this, but I think you probably can figure it out. If you have a whole thing and you only have one of them, how do you write that? 1. 1 shows a whole. It shows that you have one whole thing and you didn't cut it into any pieces. Okay, so that's how to write a half. Let's look at how to write a quarter. All right, here's our anchor chart with all our quarter pieces on it, where we're cutting up equal and not equal for pieces. Quarters are 4 equal pieces of one whole thing. Just like here we have 4 equal triangles of one square, and we had 4 equal squares of one square, and we had 4 equal quarter circles of a circle. So you can say it's a quarter or it's a fourth. They both mean 4 equal pieces of one whole thing. This is how you write them. Looks a lot like a half, except instead of a 2 on the bottom, there's a 4 on the bottom because you have 4 pieces. So you can write 1 over 4, or you can write 1 over a slash mark 4. Those are both ways to write 1/4 of something. Okay, now that you remember how to write it, let's practice it with some Play-Doh. Okay, so I have my Play-Doh and I've stretched it out and flattened it and been stretching it a whole lot so it gets nice and soft. And I made a circle and I cut the circle out with my lid. I kind of pushed it down in there like a cookie cutter and made a circle. And this is one whole piece of Play-Doh. I haven't cut any pieces out of this. It's just one. Now, okay, that's a whole. Now I want to say, what does a half of this look like? You guys have gotten good at this. You already know what to do. Let's see. Can I cut this in half to fit on top of the whole? All right, I'm going to push down on here like this. If it was you, you should do this on top of a table or a plate. I'm doing it in the air so you can see, but I would like you to push down on your table or your plate or whatever you're doing this on your desk so you don't poke yourself with the toothpick or the knife, okay? All right, now you know how to make a whole or a half. You're just making a line down the middle, right? That makes a half. How do I cut this in half? If you keep pushing on it, whoops, I broke my toothpick, see? You gotta be careful. All right, if I push it down the middle and I cut it, did it make 2 halves? Looks like it. Now, I want to know, can I lay these 2 halves on top of the other circle I made, the whole circle, and see if they will fit? Let me see. here's my whole circle. Here's my whole circle. Here's my half circles. Let me see. Do they fit? Do they fit? There's one half. Let's see. There's the other half. Do they fit? Do they overlap? There's a little piece sticking off my hole. I don't think they overlap. I think they make a hole. Two halves together make one whole. Nice. Okay, so let's try. Now that you've made two halves, let's see if we can make 4 quarters that will fit onto 2 halves. I'm going to use my hole and cut that up into 4 quarters. I'm going to do it on top of my desk because it's really hard to do it in the air. But while I'm doing this, you can try it. Get your knife or your toothpick. See if you can cut your hole into 4 quarters. All right. Okay, cut up my 4 quarters. Here they are. Now, I have to see if my quarters will fit on top of my halves. Let's see. Here are my halves. Okay. Now, can all right, quarters, come on. All right, there's 2. Now I got to get the other ones. These don't really fit. Like, I don't think I can get all 4 of my quarters on 1 half. You what? You think we should try to fit the 4 quarters on both halves? Okay, that's a good idea. Let's try that. Okay. All right, so I've got 2 quarters on this half. Let me see if I can fit the other 2 quarters on the other half. All right, let's see. Here are my 4 quarters. And they're on top of my halves. Do they look like they fit? Do they look like they overlap at all? They overlap, but they're not sticking out the edges. I think they're equal. I think it looks like, what do you notice? That 2 quarters are the same as 1 half. You're right. Because if you push these 2 quarters together, they become the same as 1 half. We kind of talked about that when we talked about cutting quarters, didn't we? We said if you fold a circle, a whole circle in half, and it's like folded on itself, it makes a half. And then if you fold that on itself, it makes a quarter. So it makes sense that if you have 1 half, it's equal to 2 quarters. There you go. So if you have 2 quarters on 1 half, then altogether you have 4 quarters make a whole. And you knew that. All right. So how many halves equal a whole? 2. Very good. How many quarters equal a half? 2. Very good. And how many quarters equal a whole? I already know that. 4. Very good. Okay, so I want you to play with your Play-Doh and make some wholes and make some halves and make some quarters, and then challenge either your brother or your sister or your mom or dad or somebody who's at your house to see if they can figure out how many quarters will fit on a half and how many quarters will fit on a whole and how many halves fit on a whole, and keep trying different things. All right, have fun with your Play-Doh. I will see you later. Bye, kindergarten.